Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Travel Tuesday. Keep travel dreaming. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Welcome. So we will start with Keep Travel Dreaming and Plan Your Future Wellness Business, Episode 4. This is a Project Positive Planet webinar in collaboration with Well World TV, Caribbean We, and Papilia. Joining me is Rico Louw, Senior Account Manager of STR, Matt Cooper, CEO of Travel Culture Collab, and Sophia Hyder Hock, CEO of Papilia. Hi, guys. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
How's everybody on this Tuesday?
Present.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks for having us, Steph.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pleasure. Sophia, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'll be quick and to the point. So hi, everyone. We're so glad to have you here today. My name is Sophia, and I'm the CEO of Papilia. At Papilia, what we do is we design and facilitate diversity and social inclusion strategy, trainings, workshops for different destinations and travel organizations. We also do one more thing. We infuse wellness into all of our strategies because that's really the core of everything. That's what we believe.
Awesome. And Rico?
Thank you. Rico Louw. I am an account manager at STR with a special focus over the Caribbean and Mexico. So I work with clients that submit data to STR. STR collects hotel performance data. And then folks come back to us saying, how is this doing and how is so forth doing? So we do benchmarking. Yep, honored to be here, and I miss the Caribbean, so let me get a taste.
As do we all. And Matt?
Yeah.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, I created Travel Culture Collab last year after my time at the CHTA, where I got to partner with Rico Louw and Stephanie Rest, and got to meet Sophia as well. Travel Culture Collab is focused on collaborative partnerships in the travel and tourism industry, especially focused on strategic marketing and sales initiatives in the travel trade community. So strengthening and creating better engagement and relationships with the travel advisor community, specifically for CVBs, DMOs, and Caribbean tourist boards and hotel companies. And I also work collaboratively with a company called Alliance Connection to create brand promotional partnerships and very curated influencer activities. So thanks for having me.
Very good. Sounds like you're a busy guy these days.
Getting into a little bit of everything, for sure.
Love it. Okay, Rico, well, we have a lot to cover today. So we're going to jump right into the numbers of what you have pulled for us. And as you know, I contact you on a weekly basis and ask you about the data. So I'm a data girl. So please share away.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Really quick, just for the folks who do not know STR, this is really what we are. We are present in 180 countries. I think what's remarkable is that we monitor 9 million rooms. That number has dropped quite a bit through April and May because of the COVID-19, but that's what we do. We actually have 9 million rooms reporting to us, and then we reciprocate back with data for folks to create a strategy and also to measure up how their performance is doing. I want to take the opportunity to make sure that everyone knows that there is resources there out for them. We run all our presentations, data, everything is uploaded to these two websites. So if your question includes hotel, you should absolutely go here and figure out kind of what is the ticker, what's going on. And we do weekly updates. We're actually doing monthly forecasts for the US so we can understand where the hotel business is going. Picture, it puts me in the mood. I miss it, but I pulled the Caribbean and Mexico. So think of Mexico, the Riviera Maya, all the way from down to Tulum. That's kind of the data that I have pulled here. Really tough to kind of understand where we go, but these are numbers. We do a running 7, meaning that we took a week and we then compile that data, gain a result. You can see an unforeseen low of occupancy. We've got the Caribbean, Mexico is all the way down to under 3%. In the Caribbean, we have nearly 9%. That means 9 rooms out of 100 are occupied. So those are way low. And then we also were able to measure that in the first quarter, just March really being that month that was a little bit bruised by the COVID-19, the shutdown, the airlines just saying, no, we're not traveling anymore. And it did create declines of a minus 10% in the Mexico region over their normal occupancy, but it hit the Caribbean harder with a 20%. And I actually can show that in other slides with the data. But here we look at the last, because April was so crucial, we look at the last 28 days. So we did the same example of before. And as you can see, we drop into some drastic measures of 90s. So percent change, we've literally emptied the bucket. It's upside down. We've dropped into a gorge, and now we got to climb out of that valley. So as you can see, both metrics include something called RevPAR. It's revenue per available room. So think of the inventory of a hotel, 100 rooms available. We took what was the occupancy and what was the revenue, and then we divided it by that inventory. And it's scaring signs there, but in Mexico, each available room is worth $1.86. So the news keeps getting worse. We know what we're doing. It's just temporary, right? We know that this is to close and to freeze down this COVID-19 from how it spreads. But the Caribbean actually sets itself with just shy of $8 per available room, which is unprecedented. Here we analyze how the percent change was in the select markets of Mexico, Caribbean, and Caribbean. And we're looking at that revenue per available room. Noticeable is how the Caribbean region, the islands, they did shut down probably because of the access. Again, I think that's going to be crucial to when they start back up, is that access, that airport, airlift really did choke those markets in a different rate than Mexico, because Mexico has a drive-to audience as well, or demand, and therefore it kind of staggered differently. Note that week of March the 14th or 14th of March, it doubles the next week. That was where the shutdown happened. That's where all the governments started to implement those laws, and it just doubles and it folds over itself into April. So really interesting data for that segment there. To pull up all the markets, we really have to point out that this is Q1. So this is our first quarter of the year. So it has a little stain of COVID-19 in it. But what is kind of really interesting is those Mexican markets, except for the Cayman Islands, they really sit out there with the less change in occupancy in that first quarter. But look how Mexico already came struggling with rate, that purple shade there. And of course, the RevPAR being the dot, that's where their situations themselves percent change wise. But across the board, nearly everyone saw more than 20% change in their RevPAR in the first quarter. So that was kind of a tough pill for them to swallow. Q2 is going to be even deeper, is what we're seeing. And then Q3 and 4, hopefully, is when airlift opens up and access gains back and demand can get to those boutique hotels that we're going to dream about today. I switch into recovery, and I do it. I mentioned it earlier as we were all getting ready to get on the call. I switch it over with a shock. I actually come in saying, this is US data. We're looking back all the way back into, we're looking at historical data. So you've got, here's 9/11, and here you have the mortgage debacle, the crisis that we had in 2008-9. But what I'm trying to say here we are with COVID-19 for the US. That's the cliff that I mentioned earlier. But what we do have is a clear reminder that everything comes in cycles. As you can see, the US economy, I am not an economist, but what I have read is that the US economy has never seen back-to-back years of decline. We always rebound out. There may be a reaction there, but here's the growth spurt. So again, the reminder here is we live in cycles. This is temporary, what we're going through right now. We now want to see that come out here and creating a very deep valley in our history. So to kind of understand what the cycle is, we're really lucky that, one, we have China, who kind of went through this transition of locking down all the way back. We see them scraping. They actually bellied down in occupancy. They bellied at 8%. And then when they had the pandemic more under control, they started opening up. And then this is China as a country. They're coming out. I have April 18th data here. And the reason why is because it kind of just plateaus on. What is really noticeable is you see Mexico and you see the Caribbean to plunge down to that same level. Italy, who was the second hard-hit country after China, I mean, you just look at their drop was completely different to what we see in particularly North America, because it's got the US data, it has the Caribbean, it has Mexico. So they all kind of behaved. Maybe the policies were more similar, but that was the shutdown and how they transitioned out. This is a slide of hope. This is China. My gray shades are hotels that were open before the shutdown. And then we in green show actually hotels that reopened in March. You can see the luxury and the upper upscale, that really nice product opening up in its totality. So that to me speaks to the Caribbean and also to that Riviera Maya that I talked about earlier. That's the product that exists there. Upscale, of course, we have some mid-scale as well, especially in Mexico. But what is noticeable is they all bounce back and they open. So ready for business. It does mean there's going to be a huge supply of rooms. Everybody's going to come on and say, hey, we're open. So there's going to be some fight for the demand. It may encourage to do some promotions of 40% off. I've heard 2 for 1. Anyway, that will all adjust itself. A fun little comment down here on the economy class. Everyone says, oh, so the struggled in getting back online. We've discovered that there are actually a lot of cities and government that did take over hotels in their complete number of rooms and made them into, we could say, temporary hospitals to house, or even tourists that were left behind and could not get back. So some of those hotels are being completely leased out, and they're not a current hotel right now, so they don't enter into our inventory pool. They're right now closed because they're doing a different function. So we thought that was really something that we were kind of like, oh, interesting. We've seen it happen in the US too. Great lines here. Notice those ticks as we sort of see, because we're measuring day of the week, and those are the weekends, and they're already gaining pulse. So real good news. This is in multiple markets in China, but that uptick, that is a sign of demand. It is domestic. We know that China does not have international tourists coming in, so they are really feeding off the domestic demand. Folks actually are talking about revenge. Folks are gonna go out and just take it over as a revenge because they've been shut down for 2 months, probably in an apartment, the way they are set up over in China, they're all stacked, but they're going out with a revenge to actually travel and use the leisure again. Interesting slide. We measured some more leisure destinations, and the picture and that real big uptick. Note that hits a 70% of occupancy. That's a day in China, a weekend that actually simulates a little bit like the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos in Mexico. They go out and they sweep their tombs and obviously reminiscing their past ones. But again, 70% occupancy. So we have, and this is daily data. So we're looking from March all the way over to nearly mid-April. That's 45 days. Normally we're looking at these things, and Matt can kind of validate it. We're looking at like for years and months. This is very reactive. So it is coming in. It is onboarding again, domestic though, that we need to remind you of that. And then where is it happening? Well, the mid-scale and economy is leading. They are actually going up towards a 60% occupancy in this period. We see the luxury and the upper upscale coming up slower, but I still think that up means demand, and that's what everyone in the hotel industry is looking for, is when is the demand going to come back and when is it going to come to my market. I'm a boxing fan. I love boxing, but I heard this from a gentleman on one of these fun situations where we get together on a webinar, and it's true. Let's make these days count. We're all kind of building up and building towards. Don't count the days, make the days count, and that's actually my final slide. Oops. Stephanie, I think you're on mute.
You are on mute.
Sorry about that. Some depressing numbers from the Caribbean, but it's so important to look at China and their recovery and keep the hope alive that we will be coming back. It's just a matter of time. Matt, Sophia, any comments or questions from what Rico shared?
I think the data is it's great data that you have, and I really like the fact that you remind us that the economy will rebound, and it's the pattern of data, right, that we see. So I appreciate you reminding us of that, and I love that last quote. It's a good reminder. We need that after seeing those stats.
Yeah.
The greatest of all time. That's where that came from. The greatest of all time. He used to call himself that, Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
I thought that was very interesting, Rico. I think there's an anticipated contrast in recovery and where we'll see recovery in what segment first from the U.S. or North America, which is, I think it looks like luxury, mid to high and high luxury are going to lead the charge out of this here in the short term in the closer proximity, right? The mid market is going to take it on the chin, but yeah, that's where we're already seeing uptick from some of the anecdotal evidence that I've heard from travel agents, travel advisors that are pretty busy right now for second half and into 2021, is that it's really the luxury that's going to lead it. I wonder what kind of dynamic you might be able to shed a light on that's different in China.
We have seen the Chinese domestic user actually go for when they're going for leisure, right? So they're doing that. Okay, I'm going to stay in China, but I'm going to go to the lakes. I'm going to go, and they are actually shelling out more. The ADR is going up. They're actually paying more than they did before, and I think it has to do with that revenge. It has to do with those folks that are like, oh no, I'm getting my room. I need to see the view, and the product is just going to be the stunner, the dream. They've probably, they've been banking on this mentally, and we are seeing that. Again, so our website.
Pent up demand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
So could it be pent up demand? So keeping, not having all that money that has not been spent, but also perhaps with luxury markets, the spacing of rooms are also much different than the different tiers.
Yes. I've even heard of cycles of like hotels won't be able to sell the same room until a space of days have passed between occupancy. You know, maybe hotels are saying only our bungalows are available because they have that spacing. We're not going to put you in the tower where we have the rooms are more stacked. I totally agree. Unfortunately, when we read the data, we read rooms occupied and the net revenue that is with that sale. So I can't split. I can't actually tell you, oh, it's because it was beachfront. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, now that we've used our business mind to focus on some numbers, let's have some fun and talk about some properties. So Matt is going to talk about his first property in Jamaica, which is Jake's, and I've had the opportunity to visit. I'm going to share a little video and then I'll let Matt talk about his experience. As soon as I figure it out. All right.
Goodness.
So Matt, you've been to Jake's. I have a few photos as well. Tell us about. Oops.
You're going to play some photos too, looks like?
Yeah, if you want to talk over the photos.
Yeah, sure.
And tell us your experience at Jake's.
Yeah, Jake's is a place that is really represents for me a very rustic and genuine feel for Jamaica, in stark contrast to what's going on in a lot of the north coast of Jamaica, which is, Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, Negril, where the majority of the development has happened in Jamaica. What we find in the south coast of Jamaica, which is Treasure Beach, Treasure Coast, is almost exactly the opposite. So if we back up a little bit to talk about Treasure Coast and the South Coast and what that represents to the island of Jamaica and its people, about 80% of the country's agriculture, so about 80% of Jamaica's produce is actually coming from the South Coast. So that's why they call it the breadbasket of Jamaica. And I really want to talk about this property because it, at its core, has that in its DNA, right? And it's really been a concerted effort and a labor of love for the people that created Jake's and run Jake's, to really infuse the local culture into what they're offering in the travel experience at Jake's, and really kind of infuse in every possible way the local community in the process and in the experience. Starting with the food. So we're talking about a very comprehensive farm to table and sea to table experience. It's owned by a guy named Jason Hensel and his family. Jason is from a legacy family in Jamaica. If anybody's heard of the movie The Harder They Come, his folks made that movie. And they've been just real local, real Jamaicans for Jamaica. You know, they've just been real local champions all their lives. And so the creation of Jake's was just sort of a natural. And the fact that it's kind of off the beaten trail is one of the things that attracted me to it first, right? It's really literally off the beaten trail and sort of at the end of a road down there in the South Coast. And it just appears to have popped up as if out of nature, right? So you're surrounded by sort of this lush tropical foliage and beautiful appointments. And it's not extravagant. That's what I kind of like about it too, is it's really kind of rootsy vibe to it. You have views of the sea absolutely everywhere, the south coast of Jamaica and into the Caribbean Sea. The colors are just amazing. You're surrounded by wildlife. You're surrounded by flora and fauna that's really unique to Jamaica and unique to that coast as well. And so what Jason and company have really dialed up as an experience is something that really kind of makes you feel like, even though you feel like you're almost on another planet, you feel like you're home. Everything on the plate is locally caught, is locally harvested, it's really kind of a diverse property in the you can check into a hotel room, you can check into a cottage and a bungalow and a villa. So there are price points for everybody that you can do an EP and you can do a meal plan. So those kinds of options are available to everybody. And really the experience outside of just being on that property and experience it is kind of it feels like a little bit of a dreamscape. It doesn't feel quite real. It really what's that?
Had you been to Smurfs or Jake's?
Yeah.
I mean not Jake's.
Floyd's
Floyd.
Pelican Bar. Yeah. That's amazing. So Jason and family have gotten very much involved with the fisherman culture, with the farm culture, establishing better connectivity from farm to table in a very sustainable way, and really for the benefit of the local community. Got all these fishing guys through, the fishermen that are out there that power the boats and catch the fish and take you out to Jake's and wherever else you want to go. He got them a little bit more professional development and got them actually licensed and insured and things like that. So they're actually, sharpened the business acumen of the locals. They've gotten involved quite a bit with literacy efforts and education and promoting sportsmanship and these kind of things, teaching kids from the hill how to swim. I mean, a lot of these kids that you see, a lot of the locals that you see are from the hills up in Mandeville and everywhere else that are coming down in the South Coast to swim. And some of the kids in Jamaica don't know how to swim. So, he's taken it upon himself to kind of do that. Yeah, the Floyd's Pelican Bar is absolutely, you've been there, I guess.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. It's just an amazing place to see a sunset. It looks like a pile of sticks in the middle of the water. It looks like it's about to fall down. It's not. It's a place that it's got a bar.
Has Floyd ever told you his story?
What's that?
Have you met Floyd? Has he told you his story?
I have not had the privilege of meeting Floyd. No. Do you know the story?
Yeah, when I went out, I met Floyd, and Floyd said, "Hey, I just built this thing because I wanted to come out here and burn and be alone." And all these people started showing up. And then I was like, well, I'll cook them some food and serve them some drinks. So it was a pretty natural, organic bar development. Yeah.
Plucked from the sea and a cold red stripe plucked from the cooler, right? Well, on our way back from there, we actually caught the sunset and had a whole pod of dolphins swimming next to us. It was really wild. It was just that's what I mean. It was like a dreamscape. It wasn't even real. And the colors that you can see in the sky and the sea, especially at that hour of the day, any hour of the day, but that sort of end of the day at Pelican Bar is just something you'll never ever forget. I'll never forget it. So that's and the fishermen, the guys that took us out, the boat pilots are all caricatures in and of themselves. I mean, the guy, I don't remember the guy's name. I think it was Ted. Was it Captain Ted? He looked like he was carved out of the sea. He looked like something out of Aladdin or something. Or what's the Boy, I'm thinking of Little Mermaid. I don't know. One of these Disney movies are floating around in my head. Maybe Poseidon's cousin or something.
So Your next property, which is similar in that it's a small boutique property, but in Antigua, perhaps a little bit more luxurious.
Yeah, so it's really luxurious. I mean, in the most sort of natural way, if that makes sense. It's there's nothing sort of stodgy or pretentious about it. It's a place called Hermitage Bay. It's on the west coast of Antigua. So you're looking directly at the Caribbean Sea. Yeah, you see that beach right there? Mm-hmm. I was on that beach twice in a day, and both times, and this place was not empty when I was there. Both times it felt like my beach. There was nobody else on this little cove of a beach. You can't kind of see the cove in its entirety in this photo, but you see the colors of the sea and the sand and the sky kind of matched together. And you just, I felt like I was walking around in a dream. This one again is sort of set in the land. You know, it's really, it feels like something that just sort of grew up out of the flora. They've got 13 beachfront houses. Like, they're not houses, they're really kind of, I don't want to say huts, because I think Andy Thiessen, the guy that owns the place, wouldn't want me to call them huts, but I guess they're suites really, and they're standalone. It feels like your own little cabana out there, and they all have that direct view and access to the beach, unobstructed, uninterrupted view, and walk out to that beach. Those little huts there, those are 13 of them right there, and then there's the main pool and the restaurant in there. These are beautifully appointed rooms, and then all these rooms up there are all, the 17 that are left are all set up on the hill, and really maximizes the view. And a sense of privacy. You know, a lot of these ones on the hill have their own pools. That's a pool right there, little plunge pool. I'd never seen so many hummingbirds in the span of 2 days in my whole life, just flying right around me, you know. And that's the thing that struck me the most about it, was, and about a lot of travel experiences, but the sense memory of this place in particular has a lot to do with the sounds of nature, you know, and really kind of being able to hear the wings of a hummingbird, if that makes any sense, if you've ever done that. But they all have outdoor showers, again, surrounded by beautiful, lush vegetation. It's ultimate privacy. But even from the outdoor shower, you have a view of the Caribbean Sea. You have a view of that beach and the sea and the cove. From the plunge pool, obviously, you do too. But yeah, there's another view right there. It's just an amazing place, and it's all made out of this really hard. It's a heartwood from a sustainably grown project in Guyana. It's a forest where they sustainably grow some hardwood, and it's all made out of that. So it's all this dark, beautiful wood, exposed beams everywhere. The food is amazing. The service is 2-to-1 staff to guest ratio, so there's never a feeling of you're never at a lack for anything, and it's just very low key. It's very, very well done. The staff is very friendly but not intrusive. They remember things about you that you wouldn't imagine. The just details about your meal and perhaps a like or an interest that you shared. But again, that view is what you look at from their restaurant, and it's just or from their bar or from the pool. That's what I love about it too, is this sense that from the time you get there, you see from the front door, you can see that view, and that's really consistent throughout the experience.
I could cry looking at those photos right now.
So, yeah, it's just an amazing experience. It really is.
Dreaming.
Mm-hmm. That's why we talked about both of those properties, because they're both really beautiful dreams that I remember very fondly.
Special in their own way. That's what I love about the Caribbean, is that each boutique property is special in its own way and has its own story and offering, and makes you want to visit them all, because not 1 and 2 are the same.
So true.
Well, thank you, Matt. Sophia, are you ready to talk about your amazing property in Aruba?
I am. And it's kind of cold here in DC, at least I feel like it is for May. And so I'm just basking in all of this Caribbean dream that we're having right now.
All right, I'm just going to pull up Bucuti Tara.
Okay, so Bucuti Tara is a very special place, has a very special place in my heart for a lot of reasons. I visited, say a few years ago at this point, pre-baby. That means that, so this is an adults only location, which is another dream right now to have, since I would like a little time away as much as I love my child. It's such a peaceful, it says peace, love, and happiness naturally. That's exactly what Bucuti Tara is. It's located on Eagle Beach in Aruba, and I love this property for so many reasons. I love the fact that it has a very special vibe to it. I'll explain that in a little bit. A lot of the owner, Ewald Beemans, he is very big on sustainability. It's very eco-friendly, and everything about this property really is environment. It's about the environment. It's about the people. It's just exceptional. So my husband and I spent maybe about a week or so there. And right when you arrive on the premises, you are greeted with champagne, of course. But what they also do is they focus a lot on the food and what you're eating. And they had just instituted, when I was there, a healthy hour. So you can have a happy hour and you can have a healthy hour. And the healthy hour is really neat because they have these fantastic mocktails. But what's in the mocktails, they talk to you about the benefits to your immune system and your body. So it's not just here's some turmeric tea. It's really neat. They also provide you with these bottles when you arrive. So it's a completely plastic-free environment. And it's fun because you can take your water bottle with you everywhere. And they have stations of water stations everywhere. And so it helps you, if you weren't already conscious of being environmentally friendly before. They're just little places and reminders that remind you of how you can be more sustainable, not only at the property, but hopefully when you go home. I also had the privilege of teaching yoga on the beach there, which was just a fantastic experience, just listening to a lot of what you said, Matt, that like a dreamscape and just listening to the sounds of nature. So being able to teach there and feeling like all the guests really could embody not only the sense of yoga, but also really embody the feeling of what the beach and Eagle Beach have to offer. The staff, just phenomenal. They it's very multicultural, and they're very gracious, and they remember the little details also of who you are, what you ate, and even your name, which I loved. They have also a fantastic wellness program, and from mindful walks on the beach in the morning to being able to volunteer and with different animal-friendly, animal-related organizations within Aruba. So what's really neat is that you're able to experience this boutique hotel with your partner if you choose to take your partner there. But you're also able to learn about the culture in Aruba through the experiences that they have to offer. The rooms are absolutely beautiful. There are views of nature, and then there are views of the ocean. So you can wake up, listening to the birds chirp, and you can wake up listening to the sounds of the ocean. I really want to be there right now.
And I think what's interesting about that property and working with the owner, you actually have a smaller carbon footprint when you go to this property versus staying home. So that's for those sustainability passionate people out there. It's pretty neat.
I learned, and that's the best part, is that I've learned so much. I don't remember a time where I've learned so much about a culture or about sustainability traveling somewhere. And this place really teaches you that in how they operate, but also hopefully little tidbits you can take with you when you go home.
Mm-hmm. And I think the mindset of travelers are going to be changing and gearing more towards that experiential knowledge, sustainability. It's all going to be factors in their purchasing decisions moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah, I think so too.
All right. Well, thank you, Sophia.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, Steph.
Yeah. So Rico has a property. I'm going to play a video, and then I'm going to let you talk about it.
Very good.
Well, that is a gorgeous property and what I haven't been to. Tell us about it, Rico. Are you on mute?
I was. I need to tell the story. In our busy lives and doing this horrible job of having to travel and experiencing and so forth, joke, I was in Cancun. And to me, Cancun, I had it as a little bit as the Strip on Vegas, because it is literally, you have this strip of reef, and that's where they just built these monster hotels, 400, 600 rooms each, side by side. You get to walk down between them. You don't get to see the facade, which is the beach. So you're literally just seeing concrete. And I'm at a conference in Cancun, and Nizuc figure out that I'm in Cancun, and like, would you please swing by? We would love to talk. Well, what a great opportunity to know a user face to face. I said yes, I'll be there. And the taxi drove me all the way down south, kind of close to the airport. I was like, oh, okay, this is strange. But we got to this door that I think the closest thing that I can remember is maybe the most recent King Kong movie, is these black walls and a huge heavy door, and that was the entrance. And I was like, oh, I was totally knocked off. I did not know where I was going in that sense. And that's one thing that this video does not do justice to, and that is the incredible architecture. There was a scene of where the restaurant was, and if you could see how small that table was compared to the actual roof or the ceiling, that the whole building, the lobby, is built that way. These majestic big doors open up all the way out to the sea, and this just open. And I remember standing in the lobby waiting for my contact, and just being sucked in by this ambiance that was just it was a highlight, because there I was in a completely different environment, just minutes away from really a strip of hotels. It was just, they had just transported you into a completely different world. I met with my client, and of course they were really just eager to tour me, and I got to tour the facility and see a room and see the spa, and just I think we talked so much about vibe. Jake's has this vibe, and this Nizuc, absolutely, it's maybe a pretentious luxury, but when you're there and you're part of it, it's just really nice to be in it. So I have not stayed there. I've visited as part of what we do. And it's funny, I actually had the intention of booking for my wife and some of her friends. They do a trip ever so often, and I had said, you got to go to Nizuc, you got to do this. And that was in February, and then everything started to lock down, and I said, I think we need to think of another time to do this trip. But I wanted to treat her and her friends, because of it's just spectacular. The
You are a
architecture.
wonderful husband.
Oh. Hey, happy wife, happy life. I don't think that's changed in any downturn.
Awesome. Well, we have a great panel of people, so we're going to open up the last 10 minutes to any questions anyone might have. Henry has been to Nizuc, and he is a big fan of the property and the cuisine. Henry Watkins, who's out there in New York. So if there are any questions, I did have a question. Rico, when do you think that I know you don't have a crystal ball, but when do you think you'll start to see the tide turn domestically here in the US or Caribbean and Mexico?
We'll definitely see the domestic demand kick in. And I think when we understand, so this crisis is made up of two factors. It's made up of restriction. So we don't have access as travelers. We don't have that freedom. And the other thing is, this unemployment is going to put a little bit of a hinder on how much purchasing power is out there. So as much as we want to say, oh, the domestic is going to come back, it's what population of the domestic traveler is really enabled to do travel. So we got to be very careful how we watch this and understand where's the data coming from and who's speaking for it. See Southwest, and maybe the reason why I chose Nizuc for my dream where I want to go is because we're lucky. I live close to Nashville, just 25 miles north of Nashville, Tennessee, and there's a direct flight to Cancun, and it's normally reasonable. That's why I chose. So that's that access again that I'm I hope will bounce in, will kick in as soon as possible. Southwest has announced already in June it's going to start all these international routes. Let's just hope that the American government, when you come back from a destination like Nizuc, like Cancun, let's just hope it's an open door when you come back and they're like, okay, we've got this procedure, temperature, this and so forth. Because that's the other, it's how these governments are going to speak to each other.
Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of moving parts, and a lot of collaboration has to happen across sector for all this stuff to come back together. The good news is it's going to. We're just in a very uncertain moment in time where everybody's sort of trying to figure it out. The good news is they're trying to figure it out. So it's what Rico touched on. Is it temperature checks at the door? That's there's a whole segment of people that might have the virus that will go undetected. So I don't think temperature checks is the end all be all. I think we need to look at better testing before a passenger even gets on a plane. So what the procedure looks like outbound is one thing. The question of returning air service is yet another, and that is a very complicated equation, and one that the Caribbean is solely dependent on. Right, there are no bridges to our islands. Our bridges are by air and by sea, and we know how the equation is happening by sea. It's not looking great to be a cruise line today, but there are there's a ton of capacity out there. They're not going away. They're going to figure this thing out. And what that looks like procedurally is again, not a simple answer. But I would be so bold to say, what was that?
Pent up demand, just what you said about cruises, just a lot of pent up demand. I was surprised that people are still wanting to be on cruise ships and book cruises.
Yeah, well, there's a ton of cruisers, and the cruise industry has been at this longer, arguably, than a lot of Caribbean destinations have been at this, and systematically much better marketers than most anybody in the travel industry, and very smart collectors and practitioners of data, data-based marketing. Data-driven marketing decisions. So, and it does offer, if you will, a basically all-inclusive experience. And on the high end, like a Regent or a Crystal or a Silver Sea, everything's included. So there's a lot to be said about cruising. I do think that the pent-up demand is going to drive the market, and for land-based tourism as well. When we're in a forum of travel agents and travel professionals, and everybody's talking about, oh my God, is this thing ever going to come back? I think we should be out there really bullishly selling toward the second half of the year into 2021. Airlines are losing money, hemorrhaging money by the day. They want to change that situation as well. They all want to get in the air too. So if you're going to show demand by intent to buy, and folks are forward booking, I think that's only going to drive and accelerate this process, barring any kind of spike in viral activity and that kind of thing. I mean, that's another sort of wild card that we have to watch. But at the end of the day, travel will resume soon, and will resume progressively more.
Okay, we have a question from Henry, and I'm going to try to dissect this because it's a long one and simplify it. So I think the question overall, and Henry, you can correct me if I get this wrong, the need for revenue and commerce versus the need from health and protecting your staff, perhaps your guest. How should people be restricting occupancies when they open? Or what are your thoughts?
I'll take a stab.
Yeah.
I think guidelines are there to help you. We don't have clear guidelines yet. We hear from China, even from the European markets, what they are thinking. Even government-controlled occupancies, like, no, we're in phase 2. Hotels must not exceed 50% occupancy. We don't have anything yet. We don't. So I think to be talking about that right now, that's the scary part. It's the unknown. I believe that good testing, absolutely. Matt, why are they obsessed about getting a vaccine? Get me good testing.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. Again, you get good testing even when folks, before they climb up on a plane and they return to their destination, and they come with a little passport stamp saying he checked well with this credible. Again, what data are we going by? Which entity? So we need those big minds that really have the network to be enforcing and producing some guidelines that every single industry, because it's not just hotels, it's not the occupancy. You could talk about a plane occupancy. Hey, we could talk about a Lyft or a Uber occupancy. That's something that's happening in Europe. You can only go one person in a Uber or in a car. So it's a tough one on how things are going to reopen. We keep hearing, oh, things will be different. Okay, got it. I'm with you. Even if it's different by having to wear a mask, I'm actually wearing a mask to protect myself and to protect whomever I may come into a distant interaction with. I don't think, I'm sorry, Matt, but we won't be able to hug like we do big bear hugs at the bar.
I think we'll just have to be consenting about it on both sides. That's all.
Video or hugging.
I'm gonna hug you the next time I see you. I'm warning you. Yeah, it's a complicated equation. It's brand new, so I think it's a hypersensitive topic. You have strange bedfellows like Hilton and Lysol. Like, when did I ever think that I would see a hotel brand actually out loud brand with Lysol? Like, Lysol is the thing you use to spray down stuff to kill germs. You don't want to have that image in your mind about a hotel room, but here we are, so.
In fact, opposite, though, to correct consumer confidence.
Yeah, I think so. I think, having experience with hurricanes and natural disasters otherwise, and everything else that affects the economy, which immediately affects travel, coming out of a lot of those things on the other end, I look back and I say, my countrymen's memory is mercifully short. Mm-hmm. And I'm really hoping that some of that comes to play for sure. Now, is that not to the extent to be irresponsible and say, oh my God, none of this stuff matters. It absolutely does. To your point, Steph, there needs to be a restoration of consumer confidence. The way that I've seen some anecdotes of people flying in the last week or so, it's not consistently promoting confidence. Some of the planes or some of the flights have been great, and the middle is knocked out, and everybody's celebrating the distance anyway because nobody likes the middle seat. But then there are other reports of people getting on planes and nobody's, half of them aren't even wearing masks. So I think it's really important that there is some sort of regularity to it, some consistency, some agreement. But again, when you look at an airplane, you're talking about the federal government on the outbound, federal government on the inbound. You're talking about the private sector that runs the whole thing, right? The whole operation. You've got all these, you've got federal or government employees on the ground, on the tarmac, people handling your bags. Lots of points of touch, right? Lots of points to really have to handle and take care of. So it's not an easy equation.
Well, I want to end on a positive note, and I agree, none of this is easy. Matt, so tell us something that's come a positive experience out of this social distancing and pandemic for you.
I think ironically, paradoxically, is this thing that we've gotten to know about social distancing and had to kind of really deal with the reality of it has brought us somehow closer together. I think the idea of the universality of this problem kind kind of sheds a light on the need for better or more unification. And I think it's, on a positive note, I think it's brought a lot of people closer. It's brought a lot of folks to appreciate things that perhaps before they have taken for granted. And that includes travel, right? Mm-hmm. So, I think what I've seen is a lot more humanity out of people, and a lot more of a sort of an acknowledgement to stay connected and that we are all interconnected. So we need to kind of work on this goal together. We can also laugh at the somber piano music and the absolutely identical commercials that every major company has come out with in the last 60 days. I have a brilliant video on that. I'll share that with you because I think it's positive. I've had a lot of time to work on Spotify playlists. So that's another thing I'd love to share with you. That's a passion of mine, is music, and talk about sense memory, For me, that's just very acute when it comes to music. So I've developed a lot of different playlists. One of them is really reggae influenced cover tunes. So songs that were not originally written in the West Indies that are now covered in a sort of a reggae genre, and songs that have been sampled and things like that. So that, for me, that's been a lot of positive. And I'm growing peppers in my backyard. So lots of positive there. But yeah, thank you for this too. And it's has actually given me a new appreciation, a renewed appreciation, a reminder of partnerships that I've been in the middle of along the way, and that we've all developed together with you guys right here around me immediately. So thank you very much.
Thanks for being here, Matt. And that's wonderful. All right, Rico, what have you been doing that's positive? Positive that's come out of it?
I think there's that the situation has created empathy. I'm an account manager, and so I talk to clients. Negotiating a contract right now it's worse than having to buy bread at 2:00 in the morning because it's old. It's not been made yet, right? There has been empathy. There's been some conversations I never dreamt of. Like, hey, this is our situation. What are you going to do? Where do we fit? And it's just, I've really appreciated that. But then again, I'm that kind of person. I do love empathy, and I listen more than I speak. And so I think that's another way of getting through this, is by coming in with that we're in it together kind of, we miss sport, which makes us competitive, and we drive it away. Here now, we're like, we're going to get through this. Mm-hmm. So I think empathy, even with our own children, I'm not saying that they have to be a reason to bring up a point, but we can't wait to travel with our children. Our children are like, what are we gonna? What's up next? And you have to give them kind of a guidance and so on. And you ask for empathy. Well, right now okay, it's cool. That would be me. It's like empathy is right up front.
Awesome. And thank you for being here today, Rico. Enjoyed it, and all the numbers, especially the ones out the end that are telling us it's going to come back and we're all going to be okay. We need that reassurance. Sophia?
So I ditto what Matt and Rico are saying with empathy and connection. And I think that this time has given me personally, and I think others around me, the opportunity to try to be themselves, their authentic selves. And it strips away the need to try to be something else, but we're all trying to connect and be real and be honest about who you are. So when and how are you doing is used to be I'm okay. It's now a lot more. It's a little more in depth right now about how you really are doing, and I think that's something that has changed from before, which is really nice, because at least for me, when I tried to ask people how they are, I really want to know how you're doing, not just the okay. So it's a really neat time to be able to connect with people in a real, authentic way.
Yeah, I agree. And thank you all for being in my tribe and a part of this today. I really enjoyed it and traveling and dreaming with you all. And we do have a Facebook group. So we encourage you, if you have your own projects or things, I think everybody's kind of reevaluating their life at this point and ambitions and what they want to do. So if you're doing your own thing or projects, we invite you to join us on our group, Project Positive Planet, on Facebook. And thank you, Matt. Thank you, Rico. Thank you, Sophia. And keep travel dreaming, everyone. See you later. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.